Hello, world of YouTube. Welcome to another list video. Now, I'm doing other types of video game lists as well. I'm not just going to be doing my favorites of the franchise, the console, Commodore 64. I'll be breaking down other more abstract ideas or doing a little more of a creative exercise. In this video, I'm going to break down my top 11
sequels I want out there. Just some games I want to see made.
Fuck.
No, I mainly try.
Well, I've got a couple caveats for this list. First off,
I mainly tried to stick to sequels to games that aren't obviously going to happen or haven't been announced yet. I tried to mostly think of sequels that aren't necessarily a complete shoo-in, with some sequels likely, some unlikely, and some that make me look like an effing moron. And like I said, these are just sequels I'd personally want to see.
God damn it, Scott.
First one feels like a no-brainer because, I mean, hey, it was successful, but I feel like it's still not that obvious. We got these gorgeous visuals, let's put them in a new Crash game! Vicarious Visions knocked that out of the park here, and wow, Crash's post-warp output has been
excited, and I can't conceive
body to say the least. I feel like if we make a traditional by-the-numbers Crash game with these visuals and a new adventure, we'd be set!
pills here.
You know, I feel like out of the Valve games, this is the next obvious choice if I'm not putting Half-Life 3 on a list. Which I'm not. But I feel like there is some untapped and unutilized aspects of this genre that Left 4 Dead 3 could really utilize to make it different from its predecessors. I mean, you can set it in a place like a frozen tundra, where, you know, equipment is sparse and you really have to use survival, and you could also have other things that aren't just zombie hordes be your enemies, like zombie bears and other dangerous zombified animals. You can really lean on the survival aspect on top of having shit like hordes still be a prominent thing when you reach safe places like small towns. I don't know, I feel like there is potential for something like that to switch up the Left 4 Dead games, and I feel like if they were to do it, which I would love to see, that's how they should do it personally.
Honestly, I really understand why this franchise hasn't seen a new game in a while. It was heavily saturated when it broke out in the West, without a whole lot of variation in its art style and its direction for the most part. It also didn't help that the console ones weren't as consistent as the handheld ones were as far as output, even if they were dynamically different. It didn't help that they weren't well established as part of the same franchise either. And I feel like that was its biggest downfall, and I feel like if you were to make a sequel, you'd have to inject a lot of new ideas or new art into this franchise. But there's some potential here to bring it to the Switch. You keep the cartoonish art style, you just give it a kind of an overhaul, kind of what they did to Punch-Out on the Wii in 2009, you know? And maybe focus a little more on stakes, make stakes severe in this. You know, put up a battle where you need to pick a certain general, but if you lose that battle with that general, you can't use them in that battle again. You know, give yourself some more stakes, kind of put some Fire Emblem rules on this turn-based strategy game. You can even kind of boost the story a little bit. I know it's not the big focal point of this, it's more about strategic warfare, but adding a little story to this that's not quite as serious maybe wouldn't be a bad idea. And I feel like you could have a pretty solid game on your hands.
I am Turok.
You know, it's probably just because I'm recoiling over the troubling experience that was Turok 3. But I think that if they made a new Turok game with better graphics than even the new reboot had, hell, you could even tap into the aesthetics of Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't think people would complain that much. And it was a little closer tied to the franchise that came before the reboot. You know, maybe follow Joshua's adventures post Turok 3 because he's still alive in it. Or even have one of the two characters from Turok 3, you know, learn more about the lineage. Maybe have one where they go through time and, you know, team up with the original Turok. Flesh out the lore and maybe have some of the aesthetics from more Turok 1 or 2, and you've got a pretty solid shooter on your hands. Side note, but did you guys know that Disney Interactive Studios actually published the last Turok game? Which is really fucking weird if you think about it.
I feel the cosmos.
This feels like kind of another no-brainer given we had that recent remake on the Switch, but maybe will be overlooked. However, Bandai Namco, hear me out. You take the mechanics you introduced in Katamari Reroll, slap them with brand new graphics and a really absurd story like this.
The King of Cosmos and the Prince just hanging out when all of a sudden a wormhole opens up and an evil King of Cosmos comes out and steals all of the planets and throws them across his own galaxy. So it's up to the Prince to go to the dark cosmos and roll up the bits from the various other planets or elements of them to make a new cosmos, new positive galaxy. Listen, it's a basic idea, but this franchise is already about doing weird shit, so I'm just rolling with the punches here.
Spaceman!
I know we're getting whatever the hell this Time Splitters Rewind game is, but that's still being pushed back and developed, and I'm pretty sure it's a remake. And I'm talking about like a continuation of Cortez's story. One that feels like a spin on the story told in Future Perfect. Instead of having him jump through time and lampooning time periods, have him lampoon game genres. Have him jump across dimensions. Have him meet other Cortezes that are for some reason in other styles of games. You know, have him meet the Gears of War version of himself. Have him meet the Call of Duty version of himself. Or even the outright just strict sci-fi version of himself. You can even have him do like a genuine horror section. You can have so much fun with the new Time Splitters game while keeping a lot of the tight mechanics seen in the earlier games. And just make it look all nice and pretty. That's all I really want. It's just a fun shooter that isn't overtly, you know, trying to do something that's been done a lot recently in shooters, which is to be flashy and funny. Just have it lampoon. It's a tried and true formula that I feel like hasn't been done in a while. You can even have a world where he travels to one of these bright and colorful funny lands and just make fun of that. Get even more batshit nuts. That's not a bad idea. Nintendo, you have a wealth of potential with the Punch-Out franchise. And you have a plethora of things you can do if you just utilize this man right here. Make a prequel game with Doc. Set it before the 80s. Give Doc a luscious fro. And even put him up against some ancestors from some of the bigger boxers in the franchise. I mean, it's right there. It's so simple. You can keep the mechanics from the Wii game even and put it on the Switch. It's so easy. Just make that happen. Also, it'd be really cool if you just had a biking minigame in it, because Doc loves him some biking, and you could even have him fight Little Mac in the end, and have it be this kind of sweet, endearing close to the thing, or have him discover Little Mac at some point. I don't know. I really think that'd be nice. So I feel like this one's a little bit of a harder sell, but hear me out. Take the aesthetic of this and the visuals of this, combine it with this and this. What I mean by that is have a 4-player mode that's like Lost Planet 2, because that was a really, really fun multiplayer experience, and it had a really nice, weird story. But give you some other flavors to play with. You know, give you a mode that's similar to a Battle Royale game, or even make it a straight-up Battle Royale game, but have it third person, based in the tundra, have you need to huddle around the heat hubs to keep warm and survive, and even maybe coat the island with the big bug monsters seen in the first couple of games. You know, there's potential there, I feel. And you can even make the monsters a bigger focal point like Monster Hunter, but maybe not make them an outright Monster Hunter type game. All I'm saying is, you put those 3 elements together, I feel like you got a really fun game in your hands. You can even give yourself the mechs in the Battle Royale mode, or incorporate them more into the multiplayer. I think there's some potential there, and I like that idea, and I just wanted to throw it out there. This is like the most personal pick outside of maybe the next 2. This feels like another weird pitch like Lost Planet, but a little less so. Take the visuals of F-Zero, make them gorgeous like the Wipeout remake, but add a lot of character like what was seen in Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. And what I mean by that is, F-Zero, like Punch-Out, has a plethora of potential with its lore and world building that I feel like Nintendo sits on and squanders. Even if you had little shops that you could visit and give the characters a little more stats and base and give them even just more voice work, you could do so much to their personality and character that I feel like Nintendo is just not doing. I mean, hell, they made an anime for this that no one really watched, so if you introduce that in the game, just give a little more world. That's all I really want. Plus, I feel like F-Zero, what F-Zero needs to improve itself and to stand itself out from its predecessors is to give it this kind of, not realistic, but pseudo-realistic twist by having vehicle stats, upgradable stats, stuff like that.
Jet Set Radio!
Basically make Splatoon, but have it more centric to Jet Set Radio's aesthetic, and give yourself bosses to fight, and make the story just nuts. Again, I feel like this sells itself, but maybe that's just me. Hideki Naganuma is still doing work. There was like a spiritual successor to this recently, I heard, but there hasn't been a new Jet Set Radio game in so long. Even if you just gave each gang their own stupid-looking boss, and introduce more gangs, and expand the world, little past Tokyo Toe, you'd have a pretty fucking dope game on your hands that I know fans of the franchise would eat up because I follow Hideki Naganuma on Twitter. So many people want him to do this, want him to make a new Jet Set Radio game. So I wish they would come together with Sega, use one of their many underutilized properties, and make just a dope rollerblading game with graffiti.
Of each hand.
This franchise has seen a lot of different facelifts. I mean, it's looked like this, and even this. So why not take these gorgeous visuals from the remake and put them in a game like this? Hear me out. It's a stealth roguelike game where the Gluckins or some other weird-looking, evil-looking alien race are abducting Medokins and are trying to bring back new and tasty. Because we're all about reinventing and bringing back nostalgia, so there could be commentary on that. And they have found a way to engineer this factory that has advanced security measures where it remaps itself and reconstructs certain parts of it if intruders were to be found. And you are this new outcast of an alien race, a new alien race that is trying to stop it because they like the Medokins. They're friends with the Medokins, and it is up to you and an older Abe to stop this evil plan. You know, so you're sneaking through this factory. Anytime you're caught, you're thrown out, and the factory reconstructs itself. You know, if combat isn't a big focus, but it could be a part of it in its own Oddworld sort of way. You know, it's just I don't think that'd be a bad idea, and it would bring a twist to the roguelike genre, which I feel like that is also needing a reinvigoration.
That was my list. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Are there games that you would like to see a sequel to? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you have a thing you'd like me to talk about in this segment? Let me know. Thank you for watching. I have been Vowel You guys are good to these last situations, and I'll see you another day.